So, hi everybody, my name is Jenny Bailey and I'm the founder of Calla Shoes, and it is International Foot Week at the beginning of March, from the 8th of March onwards, and it's also International Women's Day as well. So I thought what would be nice is if we did a little interview with a good friend of mine, Claire Forbes, and talk about feet. So as you know, I have Calla, and Calla is a brand of stylish footwear that you can see behind me for women who suffer from bunions and other problems like hammer toes and that kind of thing. And Claire has a clinic called Forbes Feet in Jersey, the beautiful island of Jersey. She is a podiatrist and she is registered with the HCPC. I think I said that right. And that basically means she's registered with the main governing body of healthcare professionals. So she's legit. She has been studying for quite a long time. She's been doing this for a very long time. She is a specialist in the biomechanics of feet. So this is like the structure of feet. Is that right, Claire? Biomechanics?
Yes, yeah. And the way it functions.
Yeah. And then she also has a business that she's going to be relaunching. We won't say too much about it, but it's basically around foot care products as well. So she's very busy. We are very lucky to be able to get this time talking to her. And what we're going to cover today is basically all the things that may have been going wrong with your feet while you've been staying inside in lockdown. So, Claire's going to cover the main things that you need to be looking out for with your feet, how you can maybe take care of them at home, and at what point you need to be going to see somebody like Claire, going to see a professional podiatrist because you're past the point of being able to look after it at home. So Claire, over to you. Do you want to go through some of the main things that you've seen in your clinic? Because in Jersey, you've come out of lockdown before us on mainland UK. So I'm guessing you'll have seen what the main issues have
exactly. So first of all, thank you very much for inviting me today. It's lovely to catch up with you, Jenny, and it's a real honour. So we were very lucky. We actually went back to work here on Jersey for podiatrists, along with other healthcare professionals in June last year.
Wow.
And so we've been working consistently since June. And it has been really busy, but we're just so fortunate to be able to be in that situation. I know that it hasn't been the same in the UK.
So how long were you in lockdown for before you opened in June?
So April and May, just 2 months.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, so I just had a big long sleep. And then I woke up and we were all back to work. So
and you were back to 12 hours a day.
Yeah, back to busy times, yeah. But it was actually really interesting, even having 2 months out of the clinic and then having my patients return afterwards. Their feet, obviously during lockdown, the weather was very nice here in Jersey. So people were walking around barefoot. So they're in and out of the garden, in and out of, we all were confined to our homes, but they were walking around upstairs, downstairs, in the kitchen, in the garden. So, the things that were embedded in people's feet, first of all.
Really?
You had sort of dog hair, glass, a bit of the garden, stones, people's just like, yeah, well, I've got this lump on the bottom of my foot. It only happened when I was in lockdown. And so you'd have a little look and like, yeah, you've got something embedded in your feet because people have been walking around barefoot. So it not only dehydrates the skin, you just can pick up, things.
Right.
So
that's one issue. Things embedded in your feet. Right. Oh.
Yes.
Check that out.
Dog hair, glass, everything. So one of the bits of advice that I would always give people is to try and keep your feet covered even when you're at home, because you just pick up things from like bacteria and dirt and from the kitchen floor walking around, and it's also quite dehydrating for the feet to be just out in the open all the time. Of course, it's good for your feet as well, so you've got to get that balance between sort of airing your feet and feeling, people like to walk around barefoot, but when you start picking up things and not washing your feet before you go to bed, then sort of things start manifesting on them.
Right, I see. So when you say cover your feet, you mean slippers or?
Yeah, just a little pair of house shoes. I'm not a big fan of slippers, actually. I like to sort of think of like a little house shoe, like a little plimsoll, little trainer, something like that. You feel comfortable wearing at home, and it's not going to mark the carpets or mark the floor or something like that. But also something that supports your foot as well.
Okay, and then obviously just cleaning your feet regularly as well, and making sure,
yeah. So if you are walking around barefoot, the one thing I would say is to give your feet a good wash, good scrub before you go to bed, because you pick up, you're just picking up everything, aren't you?
So what about like toenails and things as well? Like, how are you supposed to keep them short, or?
Oh yeah, no, that was another thing. People would. I was only locked down for 2 months. I mean, people came down with sort of like, yes, they just couldn't cope with getting down and cutting their toenails. So I always say, just follow the contour of the nail. Some toes suit a more straight cut, and others a rounded one. The worst thing to do is to cut it so straight that that edge is digging into the other side.
Right.
So I always say, just look at how your toe, the nail, sits on the toe, and sometimes it can be quite straight, sometimes it's a little bit rounded.
Okay, so I read somewhere where you shouldn't go too short on the sides of your toenails as well, because there can be problems with ingrowing nails. Is that right? Or
exactly, yes. You don't want to cut down the sulcus too much, because what you can do is that, so you start cutting and then you sort of get a bit frightened, and then you don't finish it off, so then you can leave quite a large part of the nail that then when it grows up can become ingrowing. So it's best to just, in a situation like that, just leave the sulcus, the nail that's growing up through the side, and just leave it.
Okay.
Leave it nice and long.
So at what point do you need to go and get them seen by a podiatrist? Like, what if you have left it too long? How do you know?
Well, the thing is, if you sort of get down, you first of all, you can't get down to your toenails or your feet to cut them. And second of all, you can feel them rather, they're pushing against your shoes, or they just feel uncomfortable when you put your socks on. And also you can just, I don't know, you can just tell when your toenails have just got too long, and maybe they're thickened, you can't actually cut them. And then you don't want to start cutting thickened toenails, because that's quite a hard thing to do.
Right. So what causes them to go thick?
Well, trauma, medication.
Right.
As you get older, unfortunately, you wouldn't know that, Jenny, because you're so lovely and young. Toenails can thicken. Sports people can get thickened toenails because maybe they play squash, and they've just, a nail will thicken if it's exposed to trauma. And then there are certain medications that make nails thicken as well.
Do you know what? I have that on my fingernails, where I've had trauma on my fingernails.
Right.
From sparring and in martial arts, and from netball as well.
Exactly. Yeah. So you might have lost.
But not on my toes, but just my fingers.
I think. So So you might have just knocked the nail. Down the nail matrix. Yeah. So it just responds to that trauma by making more sort of
more nail.
Yeah.
So if your feet are a bit dehydrated, because I noticed that my heels have become a bit drier from shuffling around the house and being barefoot more. So what kinds of things can you do to help with that?
So the first thing I would recommend to do is to give your feet a good scrub, get that dryness off. So maybe use something like an exfoliating hand glove, or like an exfoliating, I don't know, sometimes you can get these body scrubs as well with some kind of soap. Antibacterial is best. So just do that when you're in the shower. Just give your feet a really good scrub and a clean, and hopefully that'll get some of the dryness away. And then dry your feet properly. And then I always recommend putting a night cream on at night, or a cream on at night, because then it just it's allowed to just get on and work. And also putting a cream on a clean foot is always more effective than just sticking it on. Oh, I've been walking around all day and now I'm going to put foot cream on. No, clean your feet first.
And are there any kind of foot cream brands or whatever that you would recommend over others, or does it not matter?
Oh no, so I would always go for a foot cream that's got the ingredients are sort of like scientifically proven. There are some that just like hydrate the foot and then they just stick there and they don't work transdermally. There are definitely ingredients that work than others.
Right, okay. And what kinds of ingredients work?
So urea, yes. Yeah, so
urea, yeah.
Really,
I remember that.
really
I think I've got like a packet of something in here with urea in it that I got from a foot show. I can't remember.
It's not one of my competitors.
Hey?
I hope it's not one of my competitors.
Well, no, as soon as you're ready, Claire, I'll be all over your products. But it was the urea heel balm. It was this.
Oh, yeah, no, that's fabulous. Flexitol is a great mate, and that's 25% urea, so that's really, really hydrating. And you'd use that under a sock. You'd clean your feet. You would use the heel balm, and then you would then put that on, and then put a sock on to keep it in place.
So what's the importance of keeping your feet moisturized? Like, what can happen to them? Like, what do you see in the clinic of where people have just let their feet
become
dry
really
out?
dry.
Yeah.
So what you do, skin needs to be like it works as a really effective barrier for entry.
Sorry, Claire. You know, my daughter is just outside the door with her iPad, and I can just hear it. Carry on. So go on.
Skin is the most effective barrier to entry. So when you let it dry up, you get little cracks in the skin. It's a little bit like the ground. I always liken skin to the soil. So when in the summer, when it hasn't had any rain, the ground starts cracking. And that's exactly what happens to your skin. If you don't hydrate it, some people suffer with dry skin, cracked skin more so than others. But our feet have got a lot of sweat glands. So naturally, you should be able to, if you just clean your feet and leave your feet, that the sort of like the light perspiration that you get from your feet should actually hydrate your feet. But some people need extra hydration. So I always think that if you clean your feet, scrub them, that's often enough. But some people like to have a little bit more hydration. So you put on a cream after you've cleaned your feet.
Right. So is there professional things that you can do for dry feet, or is it something that, you know, is it
in the clinic?
Yeah, in the clinic. Like, so at what point do you know you've got to go and see a podiatrist?
So if you've got sort of heavy, thick callus as well as dry feet, and maybe it's become quite red, maybe it's become sore, maybe you've got like a corn, and then if your feet are painful, that's probably the main indicator. So very rarely do I have a patient come in when they're not in pain. Normally they've let their feet go to a certain point where like their heels are sore, their toe, you know, they feel like they might have a corn, they might have an ingrown toenail. There all often is a symptom. But for the most part, people who have got healthy feet, they can manage those at home.
Right. So what other common issues did you notice when you went back to work?
After lockdown, I mean, just unkempt feet, really. It's a little bit like, you know, there's one patient who turned up, he'd obviously not been to the hairdresser. I mean, he came like this with a big beard. I mean, that applies to your feet as well. They're, you know, people are often, you know, embarrassed. They're sort of like, oh, what, not taking their shoes off. I'm like, get your shoes off. I'm like, well, you're gonna die when you see my feet. And with women, it's very funny. They've gone and had maybe a shellac, or they've had their nails painted, and during lockdown, because the beauticians have been unfortunately closed down, which was incredibly sad, they haven't been able to go and get the, you know, that I call it the grown-up nail varnish taken off properly. So they've just had a really good pick, and so the toenails are long, they've got like a ridge where the color is sort of starting to grow up, you know, some are picked off, some aren't. And they're like, is there anything you can do with those? So women are often worse than men.
Do you mean in terms of leaving it too long, or in terms of, you know, being embarrassed? Like what is it?
Well, women are often, they let their feet go to, after lockdown, because they hadn't been able to go and get their nail varnish removed, they had sort of tried to do a little bit of a DIY job at home. So they just thought that, well, I'll just pick that nail varnish off, or I'll try to take it off myself. But then it just looks worse, because some have taken off, some haven't, some have grown up halfway through, and then they've still got the long nails, they've got the dry feet because they've been walking around barefoot, and you know, then all of a sudden they've developed something like a cracked heel or something. So I've had some heavy treatments since lockdown. So yeah,
I think it's going to be the same. You know, if it's just like your hair, really, isn't it? You know, if you've not taking care of your split ends, or, you know, if you've got colour treated hair and, you know, all of that, and the hairdressers are going to be going, what have you done?
Yes. Home colouring.
No, this is my hairstyle these days, because it's just on top of my head all the time, because it's so long.
It's great.
No, this is literally just tied up in a bob, because it's just ridiculously long now, and I haven't got, well, it's not just time, I probably have time to do it, but I just can't be bothered, you know, because I'm not
it doesn't cause pain.
Well, it'll be the same thing with feet, because people, you know, we haven't gone anywhere in our sandals around here anyway. You know, there's lots of people out walking, so they'll be in their trainers, you've got all your feet covered up, but it's not going to be long before we're going to be let out again, and we have to get our feet out, you know. And if there's, what other things can people do? So keep them clean, keep the nails neat.
Yeah, do you know what? The best thing to do with nails is to file them if you can. If they haven't gone too long, give your nails a file rather than starting to cut them, because filing is self-limiting. You're not going to file a hole in your foot. You know, sometimes, I dread to think what people use to cut their toenails. I mean, I've got this one guy, he's used something out the shed and nearly cut the top of his toe off. I just said, well, next time, just file. Yes, there's something that he used to take something out of his car, like pliers. That's what pliers. He just thought that he could cut his toenails with some pliers. So do you know what? If you're not going to use something properly to cut a proper pair of nippers or something like that, then just file them. Just file the edges, so at least you haven't got one toenail digging into the other side.
Wow. Yeah. I know. I like it. Do you not have like shops that sell nail clippers in Jersey?
We do. A lot of the shops have been closed down, haven't they? So when we
and I guess you've not got Amazon there and stuff to get next day delivery.
But it's beyond people, I think, to order nail nippers on that.
Such a man thing, isn't it? This'll do.
Yes, this'll do.
Yeah.
Yes. Hold still. Well, I take the top of your toe off. But yes, not really recommended. Yes.
No, and you want them to be clean. Whatever you cut your toenails with, you'd want them to be clean as well, wouldn't you?
Oily pair of nippers out the garage, yeah.
So is there anything else? I mean, anything else that you think that we should be doing at home, or anything else that, you know, I'm guessing that walking around barefoot may cause pain because of not wearing supportive shoes. So
yes.
You know, at what point do you need to go and see a podiatrist? I mean, will people need orthotics because of how they treated their feet in lockdown, do you think, or like suddenly need them if they didn't need them before? Like what kind of pain should be like ringing alarm bells for people?
Right, that's very interesting, because in June when I got back to work, there were so many people presenting in the clinic with foot pain, plantar foot pain, and it was because they'd had 2 months of walking around without any shoes on. And what happens is the foot is, because we're a shod community, we're a shod, you know, where everybody walks around with shoes on, and to go from that to being barefoot at home, of course the foot's not used to it, so the arches are stretching, the plantar fascia is sort of stretching, and you know, some areas it's probably detaching slightly, you're getting little tiny micro tears. And the amount of people that presented in the clinic with sort of plantar heel pain, or even just sort of like lateral pain, and it's probably because they've been...
For the people that don't know what those words mean.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. What does that pain feel like?
So the plantar surface is the undersurface.
So what does it feel like? Does it feel like a sharp pain?
Yeah. So when you wake up in the morning, you get that really kind of almost like someone's putting a pin underneath the heel of your foot, and you know, you almost can't put your foot down for a couple of minutes, and then obviously the plantar fascia sort of warms up and it allows you to walk again, but it can be exceedingly painful.
Yeah, I mean, I've had it. I've talked to you about this before, and I get it when if I run anywhere. Like I don't do running. I know you used to be like a professional runner in the old days, but I can't run. But I've had terrible plantar fasciitis twice, and it's weird. I had to walk everywhere on my tippy toes.
Yes.
I couldn't put my heel down. The pain was it's unbearable. It's so weird. Yes. And I had to like exercise. I was going to like my martial arts classes, and I was doing the whole class on the balls of my feet.
Yeah. No, the thing, if you do have heel pain on the undersurface of your foot, best thing you can do is actually stretch your calves, because it's all part of the kinetic chain. So, you know, if you want to start walking around barefoot a little bit more, then just make sure that you're stretching your calves, you're stretching a little bit higher up the kinetic chain, because that does help.
I've seen some really good videos on YouTube and on Instagram, actually, of like those exercises that you can do, like Pilates type exercise you can do.
Downward dog, and the other one is just like having your feet on the edge of a step and then lowering your calf down.
Was that you, that airplane?
No, that's an aeroplane. Can you really hear it?
Yeah, it was really loud there.
Oh my gosh. That's like miles away as well. Gosh, what else can you hear?
That was it. Don't worry.
Okay. It's a little tiny private one, I think. Anyway.
Yeah, it was loud. So yeah, so you can get the plantar pain. So but would they come and see you? Would, you know, if I remember when I had it, I kind of home treated it, doing some exercises, wearing shoes that I wore Calla shoes, actually, because I found that ones with a bit of heel lift and arch support, it managed to put my foot just in the right position where I didn't have pain. And I know there are some shoes out there that are similar, a bit of heel lift and
yes,
arch
exactly
support.
And a medial arch support, so the arch on the inside of your foot. Yeah, exactly. That really does help. And just get some supportive shoes on for a little while. The thing is, with the fascia, it's avascular, so it doesn't have a blood supply, so it's really important to exercise your foot as well. So I don't know if you've heard, lots of people roll they roll like a tin of beans or a tennis ball or a golf ball on the plantar surface of the foot. But that's really trying to sort of unlock the fascia and stimulate the blood supply to the fascia. And with blood comes healing. So it's an exercise that you should be doing if you're suffering with foot pain at the moment.
Okay, so if you're a bit frightened of getting your feet out, when we come out of lockdown, like May, June time, and you're wanting to wear some of the Calla beautiful sandals, and you need to either take care of your feet at home, start now, and get them ready, or go and see somebody like Claire, go and see a professional who can help you. And I think that podiatrists they're open now in the UK. I think they're allowed, because they're seen as clinical, especially for people who have like diabetes and serious problems.
Exactly.
Then go and see a podiatrist. So Claire, before we leave, is there anything that you want to finish with, or are we done?
No, I tell you what's really important is actually getting really good fitting footwear.
Okay.
And I'm just going to blow your horn for a little bit here, Jenny, because in actual fact, we've known each other for a while now, and my patients have been buying your shoes. And bunions are something that, like, I've got very flat feet and I haven't got a bunion as such at the moment, but I'm developing a sort of like a deviated first like that. So, it's so important to get correctly fitting shoes. And what's so good about yours is your feet don't become impinged on the forefoot. You give the forefoot of the shoe, or the foot. The shoe accommodates the forefoot very nicely. Sorry, that's what I'm trying to say. So no, you've done a really good job.
So this is the forefoot here.
Oh yeah, the front.
Yeah. And you can kind of see there, if I show it to you there, I don't know really. There's like there's like a bigger lump on this side, so there's more volume.
There's padding there.
And padding as well where the bunion sits. So and these are the ones that I wore when I had plantar fasciitis, because they have like a little heel at the back inside the shoe.
Yeah.
So it's not flat. And then a bit of medial arch support as well. It can't really see because of the light anyway.
No.
So I could wear these fine when I plantar fasciitis. I couldn't wear trainers, bizarrely. I thought I'll stick some Skechers on, but they were the worst. I think they were too flat. Yeah, because there was no arch support in the Skechers that I had.
And also they're too cushioning. That memory foam is just too much, isn't it? Sometimes you just sort of feel like, it was probably working your foot too much.
Yeah, they were kind of fine, like when I didn't have foot pain, but with the foot pain, they weren't good really. They were fine for like walking around. I think I bought them for Disneyland Paris.
Yeah.
I'll be developing our trainers should be launching this year, so hopefully I'll have my own. I can wear some Calla trainers if we go on holiday this year.
Brilliant. Yes. Well, we'll look forward to that.
Yeah. Well, thank you for blowing my trumpet. That's really nice of you. No, that's not what this is about. It's not about Calla. This is about helping people out there look after their feet better. So I hope that everyone that's watched this has, found it informative and interesting. And Claire, really does know her stuff. She's so modest, but she really knows her stuff. And has, many, many, many years experience. And you used to work in London, didn't you? Like at some of the top clinics. So you're just living, I think you're living the dream in Jersey because you've been out of lockdown for so long. I'm so jealous.
Sometimes people are saying, oh, there might be another lockdown. And you sort of think, oh, what? I had another month of just sleeping. Everyone sort of said, did you really struggle during lockdown? I was like, no, I just went to sleep for about 4 weeks.
But we're like a year in now. This is like, I feel like I've only been let out the house for a month.
I know, it's not too long in the UK. Yeah, no, we're very lucky here.
Yeah, you are lucky. Okay, so we're going to leave it there. Well, if you've enjoyed it, then please do comment. If you've got any questions that you'd like to maybe put to Claire, then just comment below. We're going to put it out on YouTube and on Facebook. If you've got any comments at all, then just pop them in the comments, and I'll try and get it back to Claire, and she can give you a bit of feedback. And if you've got any questions about the shoes, then email us at the normal place, hello@callashoes.co.uk.
Lovely.
So thank you so much. Thank you so much, Claire. It's been fantastic.
Okay, lovely.
And take care. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye. Bye-bye.